Hello and welcome once again to episode 50.
Big 50.
Half
Drunk
of a
Who.
century. Wait, half a centennial. Welcome to season 5 of this
No,
podcast.
but welcome to episode 50 of Drunk
A
Doctor
heck
Who.
of a lot of episodes of the
Yeah.
Drunk Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, we don't have any of that.
Brought to you by Milton Burrows' joke file, anecdotes, and
Wait,
one-liners.
that's the book you saw in the guest bathroom. Milton Burrows.
I have resolved to, every time I go to the bathroom, I'll open the Milton Burrows joke file, one-liners and anecdotes, and I'll read until I get one. Because it's very dated and it's very old. And I'll keep reading through it and flipping through pages until I get one of the jokes. And more times than once, I'll just give up.
The jokes are about 50 years old.
More times than once I'll give up. Did you know that it takes half a dozen sheep to make a sweater? Which is crazy. I didn't even know sheeps could knit. That's
All right.
one. That's one.
Alright, welcome to this episode. This is the 50th episode,
Welcome.
episode number 50 of Drunk Doctor Who.
Thanks so much for joining us.
And this is the 50th.
Even if you are just a person posting a porn link to a dating website.
Apparently on our last upload, somebody posted a porn link, link to a porn website. Anyway, so this is the 50th and final, the 50th episode of, 50th serial of Doctor Who, and is the final serial for Peter Troughton. The Mind Games. Or the War Games. He's done that. Alright, the War Games. It's a really good serial, and it takes place in 10 episodes, ranging from April 19th, 1969 to June 21st, 1969. The companions were Zoe and Jamie, and the antagonists are the Warlord and, was it the War Chief? Yeah, the War Chief. Warlord and the War Chief. Alright. Anyway, so thank you for joining us. 50 episodes after 2 years, right? We've been doing this for
Just about.
No, for over 2 years.
Over?
Over 2 years.
Over 2
We
years.
started in April of something, and now we're in April of 18. Now we're in August of 20. But part of that was this stupid Wuhan coronavirus.
The Kung Flu.
Right, the Kung Flu.
CP.
Anyway, so
CCP virus.
right, the Communist Chinese Communist Party virus.
COVID-19.
Right. The Wuhan coronavirus. Anyway, so
I'm
today,
gonna just mark this as
okay,
etc.
etc. Okay, so today is the 10th of August.
It is.
2020, at least barely, because 10 episodes. It ran us all the way to like 11:30 in the evening. Okay, so the TARDIS materializes on a planet, and the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe get out, as they always do, because the TARDIS is always faulty, and there's a whole bunch of shelling, a whole bunch of bombing, and the Doctor realizes they're in World War I. In the meantime, okay, don't kick over the bucket, you might need it.
Keep the bucket.
Don't kick the bucket, you might need the bucket. Yeah. In the meantime, a young lady, what's her name, Lady
Jennifer.
after all the bombing and shelling, she stops. She's driving by in an ambulance, a British World War I ambulance, and
oddly enough, it looked like her ambulance had the German cross on the.
Well, no, the cross is the red. The red cross.
Of course, there's the red cross, but it looked like on the grill of her ambulance vehicle, it had a German cross. It's kind of angular.
No, that's
weird.
No, that's a thing from having to start the car like that, in the old days.
So they materialize in no man's land.
In the First World War, they end up diving into a mortar shell hole. The lady Jennifer, she stops her ambulance and just says, "Hey, come with me and get out of the mortar shell hole, because it's a
come with me if you want to not die."
Yeah, come with me, you want to live thing.
If you want to not die.
Yeah, because she says, "Hey, you're in a mortar shell hole, and this is just the softening up phase. They're gonna bombard more later." So they get in her ambulance, and they go a bit, and the ambulance is captured by the Germans, because this is World War I, we're fighting against Germans. The Germans capture the ambulance, they take it for a while, and then it's recaptured by the British. Right? Okay. This is the second Doctor, this is the last serial, the very last serial listing Doctor, and it's also the last serial in black and white. And next serial will be in color with the third Doctor.
Whoa.
Alright, so
I'll let you do the recap.
Okay.
I might need a minute.
Yeah, you're gonna need several minutes.
I might need several minutes.
Several minutes. You've already puked before the podcast.
Maybe.
Yes. Not a maybe, yes.
I'll let you do the recap.
Okay, you got a Moffat bucket and we have a restroom. Okay. You're good. Okay, I better pace myself this time than he did, because I remember myself with the Daleks Master playing with 12 episodes, and I better pace myself for the 10 episodes here. Okay, this is the second longest serial of Doctor Who, unless you want to include Trial of the Time Lord as one serial, but in America we do not. It is 4 serials. So, the second longest serial ever of Doctor Who. Cheers. I'm drinking Magma Flame. He's drinking, what the hell is this called? White Claw. It's 10 proof. 10. How is he drunk on 10 proof? Alright, I'm drinking at least 60 proof. It's a bit better, but I guess I've got a better constitution for that. Anyways, so the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe were in this ambulance, British ambulance, that was kind of captured by the Germans, then recaptured by the British, and they're taken to a British headquarters, and they don't believe that they are just civilians because they're in the middle of the no man's zone. And the Doctor tries at one point to escape, and they're like, no! So they think they're spies. So they send them on to headquarters, and then headquarters is like, well, what were you doing there? You must be spies, we have to execute you. But the even martial law trial is incredibly truncated, it's incredibly abrupt. But they can sign the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe. Well, the Doctor to death. Jamie, because I believe he's a deserter from the Highland regiments, 20 years, and Zoe to some time in captivity. And then we get on to episode 2. And there are parts during this when the general of the British forces uses a pair of glasses to control his troops, to tell them what they think they see and know rather than what they do see and know. And he uses the glasses as a mind control device. And then he goes back to his quarters, and this is 1917, but there's a video screen and a method to control to headquarters, which is obviously not 1917 technology. So eventually Zoe discovers this, and Zoe goes, hey, this is not the right technology, something's going on here. So the doctor, Jamie and Zoe, eventually, even though they're sentenced to death, and the doctor faces a firing squad, but somebody shoots at the firing squad guys prior to about to shoot the doctor and saves his life. We never find out who this person is. We never know why they shot these people. All we know is the doctor's safe. After Zoe unties him from the firing squad pole, and they get away. Okay, so there's so many points in the 10 episodes where all of the major characters are about to die, and of course there's an episode break. That's as a cliffhanger for you. Eventually the doctor, Jamie, and Zoe manage to convince Lieutenant Carstairs and Lady, I forget, I don't know her name. What's her name? Lady Jennifer, that something's amiss, because none of them can remember certain key elements of what's going on, like how long they've been there, when they were sent there, etc., etc. So they convince them, hey, this isn't real, and eventually they agree with the doctor, and they help him escape from the dungeons in the chateau where they were held on the French front line during the trench war of World War One. They all get into the ambulance, and the ambulance drives away. They eventually run into some fog, and the fog apparently is a mist. It's a barrier between the time zones, and they finally cross through, even though Lady Jennifer doesn't want to do that. They eventually cross over to a time zone, and that other time zone is ancient Romans. The ancient Romans start to attack them. They're like, whoa, hello. And they back to the mist. And the ancient Romans go like, what the hell happened? And the group is back in the ambulance, back in the 1917 time zone, where the ancient Romans in their own time zone wondering what the hell happened. So the doctor decides they have to go back to General Smythe's, S-M-Y-T-G, General Smythe's headquarters, to try and get a map of all the time zones, because they only have a map of the one time zone, which is 1917, World War One. So they go back there. They eventually blow up a safe with the help of the dust, the ammonium sulfate from a grenade and the wick of a candle, and they blow up his safe, and they get a map of all the time zones. There are basically 12 time zones, which include the World War One, the Romans in ancient times, the American Civil War, the Boer War, BOAR, for those of you who don't know, it's the British against parts of Africa. The 30 Years' War, the Crimean War, the Russo-Japanese War, and several others. And of these 12 wars are all situated in this conglomeration around a triangle. It's upside down. Triangle, which is not it's on the map, but there's no ascertaining it, and that seems to be the control point. So the doctor decides they must go there to achieve the control point. So they go through the American Civil War, and they go through the lines back to 1917, and in the American Civil War they lose Carstairs. He stays behind to help them get away. And so there's the young Lady Jennifer, the woman driver of the the Red Cross hospital truck, the doctor and Jamie and Zoe. So they keep going, and they get caught by the rebels in the American Revolution. No, they get caught by the Yankees in the American Revolution. They decide that they go to a barn, and Jamie. Okay, so a box appears, and a bunch of soldiers get out of it, and the doctor goes in the box, and Zoe goes in the box, and it's like a TARDIS-esque box, but it's green, and Lady Jennifer stays behind, looking at the action outside, and Jamie stays with her. The box disappears. And so we split the party 3 ways at this point. And then the box eventually goes to several time zones and winds up back at headquarters. The doctor and Zoe get off at that point, and they're going into headquarters, and it turns out that there is I need water. There's people in headquarters with these really weird 3D glasses, and they're considered scientists or students, and they pass themselves off as students to the lecture. There's a lecture from the war chief, being, the scientist, you must prove to me you're improving this process, and we have 5% of the people who are resisting us. And so the war chief says that, and this scientist guy, he's like, okay, you good?
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. Alright, the mafia bucket. Anyway. Here, keep that close.
Yes.
Alright.
Absolutely.
So the war chief was like, you're thank you. You're welcome. Alright. War chief's like, your stuff better work. And the scientist guy's like, well, we've got 95% on the normal process, and we're going to work on the people who succeed in getting past this process, and that's what this
You are Illegible.
I'm what?
Illegible.
You don't understand me?
No.
Okay. What don't you understand?
Absolute gibberish.
It's gibberish.
They won't understand.
You are wasted.
As are you, sir.
I'm less wasted than you.
Probably. That's fair. Continue.
Okay. So the doctor and Zoe hit out on one of these green machines that are transporting people around, bigger on the inside than on the outside. They end up in the Capitol. The doctor and Zoe hide out as they put on the 3D glasses. And they hide out as students attending a lecture. So they go to the lecture, and the scientist is showing, hey, we have captured this super radical captured the super radical, which is car chairs, and we're going to reprogram him. But the doctor and Zoe are hiding in the audience as members with the 3D glasses on, and they are not exposed until the scientist does some sort of retrofit on car chairs, and then he recognizes them and he calls them out. However, the doctor plays us off as if they are not recognized, and that he's just having some sort of shell shock. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Used to be known as shell shock, especially World War I. And the doctor talks with the scientist and says, hey, what if you do this, this? Scientist says, hey, it's a great idea. And then it's found out that the doctor and Zoe aren't supposed to be there, so they run away. Okay, so after they run away, Zoe gets captured. This is the beginning of episode 5 because of 10 episodes. And she gets captured with the guy, Carstairs, who was reprogrammed. But they tell him not to kill her after, of course, the episode break where they think she's gonna die. And they want to interrogate her. So there's a guy with this big old helmet unit. He's a security officer. And he looks into the helmet unit and he sends all these visual pictures into Zoe's mind and captures other visual pictures from her mind and determines that she knows nothing about the resistance. In the meantime, Jamie and Nurse Jennifer have met the resistance back in the American Civil War, 1862 zone. So, alright, so they meet the resistance. The resistance helps set them free, and the resistance is resistance to everything going on. The resistance is the 5% that knows what's happening, knows they're being manipulated in these several different war zones, and knows that they are just the pawns in this whole game. So anyway, the doctor and Zoe, well, Zoe was captured, but then she's subjected to the visual mind thing. And they ask her where you're from. She says the 21st century. They say, well, it can't be the 21st century. We didn't take anybody for the 20th century. But eventually they realized she's telling the truth and that she was never processed in the first place. And so the fight between the security officer and the war chief ensues. Big political power fight between them. So anyway, eventually, getting into episode 6 now, the doctor manages to free Zoe with some help of others, and they escape. And they go back to different zones in the time zones, and they're trying to get all the 5% factions in the war zone to collaborate. So you've got Pancho Verde, you've got, what's his name? Hold on. Oh, and they call the capsules that moved everybody around Sidrats, which is TARDIS spelled backwards. Like, they could have come up with something so much better, you know. Yeah, it was bad. See, the worst part of this. Overall, it's really, really, really darn good, but the Sidrat thing is pretty bad. So anyway. So they had people there in the resistance from the Mexican Civil War when they left from Spain, Crimean War, Napoleonic Wars, etc. How bad off are you, Holden? Right, the Russia-Japanese War, the 30 Years' War, etc. The First English Civil War. Alright, so eventually the Doctor talks to these different factions, especially Pancho Verde, and gets them to combine in a coordinated attack. You okay? Yeah, that snort is not reassuring.
It's been a long 10 episodes.
But yeah, but I don't think you're this bad when Daleks Master Plan.
Only now I'm smart enough to throw up off camera.
Okay. Okay. You good? You need water? Drink? Whatever?
Thank you.
Okay.
Water. Drink.
I don't know which one's water and which is drink.
Which one's which?
I don't know. Salud.
Did we talk about what we're drinking today, Andrew?
No, I'm drinking Magma Flame, 60 proof.
White Claw.
He's drinking White Claw, like
Weird flavors.
10 proof.
But 100 of them. Which is too many.
I've drunk like 12 of them. Alright. Anyway, so eventually Jamie and the Doctor get all the resistance in all the different time zones.
You just give me a holler when you're done with the recap.
Okay.
Just give me a holler.
Okay.
You just give me a holler. When you're done with the recap.
Cool.
Continue.
Okay, so the Doctor and Jamie eventually managed to convince Pancho Huerta and the other resistance groups, all the other different time zones, to come up together with them and to plan a coordinated attack by pulling out the different guards from the main base to different attacks on all different time zones. And they would lead a coordinated attack on the main control center. And this basically works. As one time zone is being attacked, the guards are sent out, the guards are ambushed, and the next time zone, there's a problem. The guards are sent out, guards are ambushed, it keeps going all the way around. And eventually, they all coalesce into this in the main time zone, the controller zone, the center of everything. The Doctor, however, wants to send everybody home. Once they defeat the Time Lord and the Time, Time War, but the Time Captain or whatever, they defeat them. And the Doctor wants to send everybody home, but he realizes he can't. He realizes it's not possible in the circumstances. So he actually calls upon the efforts of the Time Lords by melding a box together. He lays out the 7 tiles, 6 tiles. The box coalesces, and he calls upon the Time Lords. And the Time Lords are like, what? We'll do this, but it's going to cost you. You've been a rogue agent. You've done your own thing we didn't want you to do. Which, in many parts, is true. And so they say, well, we're going to force you to regenerate. You want to regenerate to this, or to this, or to this. And the Doctor's like, well, no, that's too fat, that's too thin. It's too old, that's too young. Until eventually they force him to regenerate anyway. In the meantime, they've sent home Zoe and Jamie against their wills, but back into their own times. And they don't remember anything. They remember only one adventure with the Doctor and nothing else, which is really sad. But it's a precognition to what they do to Donna. Time Lord's ability to do memory wipes a la Men in Black is sad but commonplace. So anyway, Jamie's sent home, Zoe's sent home, the Doctor's having companions. He is forced to regenerate. And he's literally diving into, sinking into oblivion in a black and white 1960s montage, into the pit. And that's where it leaves off. And we will continue in the next episode with the third Doctor, when it changes from black and white to color. And we go from the 1960s, 42 episodes a season, to the 1970s, 26 episodes a season. Now we go with the third Doctor.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Did you have any questions?
Gosh, I apologize so much for being so absent.
You were so wasted.
So wasted. Drink myself sick. Which
You still have
normally
one more.
I try to exist. Now it's done. I have no questions.
None?
None.
10 episodes, you have no questions.
None that I'm sober enough to ask. We must cover them in the next serials podcast.
This is the last serial of the 60s?
Last serial of the 60s.
Last serial of the second Doctor?
Dr. Troughton.
Last one in black and white?
Ooh.
And we go from 42 episodes a season to 26 episodes a season.
Sorry. sorry.
It's okay. You're so not driving. You're sleeping here. I have a guest room. Alright. Anyway, this is reality as it is. And you are experiencing, if you're watching, true reality with Drunk Doctor Who. We'll see you next time for our 51st episode, the 51st serial. We get to the third Doctor, Pertwee. Wait. Hartnell, Charlton, yeah, Pertwee. We go to color. And everything exists. There's no more reconstructions or animations. Alright. Have fun, guys. Hope to see you soon. Post comments, I guess, because that's a thing, or not. Goodbye.